to the Grey Man Podcast. This retired counter-terrorism agent, lifelong martial artist, and personal defense expert joins his best friend, producer Jim, to talk about personal defense and world events. This is the Grey Man, Mike Sion.
We don't change things.
No, there's no change.
Yeah, I'm not touching that button, sir.
And I'm not good with change, so stop it.
Well, here we are. Fuck,
Yeah.
it's early. It's an early recording of the Grey Man Podcast. It is 7:38 Central Time on the year of our Lord, June 11th, 2025.
Oh,
Yes.
dear of our Lord.
Oh, I'm speaking the King
Yeah.
English
The King's
morning.
the King's
That's what before I have my third cup of coffee each day, I'm stuck in the King James version of English language. How art
Yeah, we
thou?
are both drinking coffee. instead
Oh
of
God,
bourbon, right?
yeah, there would be no whiskey at this time of day unless things were, well, maybe on June 15th. I'll be drinking whiskey at this time of day because the 14th is coming and there's a lot of shit going down.
Yeah, dude, it is. News is kind of crazy right now, and that's the reason why we decided to do a midweek show. I've gotten several messages asking me about things going on in California, and I've said this before. Instead of sending individual replies, it's just easier for me to get on here and go, bleh. There we go. Here's my take on it, and you can listen to this, or you can not get a response. That's
And from that perspective, this is like long form TikTok. That's what we're doing here essentially. Because I get a lot of my TikTok are guys that I would consider to be thinking along the same lines that we are, or maybe thinking differently, whatever they are, but they go on and give the 2-minute blurb, or maybe a little bit longer 5-minute blurb on things that are happening. There are a couple of attorneys that I follow that are really interesting about social events and things that they dive into, like with the things happening now in LA, diving into Article 10, Title 10. Our article title, one of those words.
Title 10 status.
Yeah, they
We're gonna talk about
dove
that
into
today.
a little bit. Yeah, I kind of figured.
Yeah.
And
So
it
if we
just-
got a TikTok channel, it wouldn't do us much good because we talk way longer than the 5
yeah,
minutes.
and I could take what we do here and break it up into little sections to put out there, or TikTok is going away, isn't it? Aren't we on another 10-day countdown where we're running out of the 75 days
It's
again?
not going away. That's a tactic. It's dumb. It's to try and force it to be sold to an American company.
According to the script that I'm assuming that we're all following, Trump and Musk broke up
Yeah.
so that they can have makeup company purchase, and Musk will buy TikTok. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen.
That's got it. Yeah.
That's
it
how the
seems
rich-
legitimate with the script we're on right now.
Yeah, that's how the rich do sex. They buy things.
I need to be rich and have sex.
You can have one or the other, sir.
Yeah, but I can't have both. Well,
No.
I'm not rich, so thank God.
Yeah. Keep your hand busy.
By any stretch, we were just talking about the businesses before we recorded, so not rich by any means. People always think that too. Oh, you own a business, you must be so wealthy. Cost me
Well-
it's like 15 grand to keep the doors open on the
Dang.
front of the house.
That's so you say that. You say people think about small business owners as being rich. I don't. I think of small business owners as in why? Why are you doing that to yourself? Why do you not like yourself?
It's because you have a degree in business. And you've been in business. So you understand how shitty being in business actually is and how much it costs, from the city to the county to the state level.
Yep.
I mean, it's 5 figures a year just in property tax. Just in property tax.
Yeah, and so I'm beholden to the man. I work for a corporation, so I'm beholden to them, and they give me money for that. So for these period of times, I go in and I give my expertise and make decisions based on the parameters that we've set, and then they give me money, and I like that. And you, you give a lot of people money, and you have all the pressure of making sure that it's so. I mean, I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. Thank you for doing it, but I am not wired that way. I am risk averse when it comes to money. When it comes to other things, I know we talked about this recently, but it's still on my mind. I want to jump out of an airplane. I guess that's the difference. Like, I can go just be risky and do things and get it out of my system. You just live that. I mean, you're a freaking paramedic.
Yeah, I
You
have.
want to, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue that list of things that you've done in your life. We're all familiar with it. We know that you like to be in high risk, low reward situations so that you can give your money to a bunch of
What?
government agencies. I don't
Yeah,
get it. I don't get it, man.
it's weird. It is risky, and it's gives me an ulcer, but it's worth it when I step onto the mat with our members.
Yeah.
That I mean, the community that we have makes it worth it. But then now since that is so, there's not a lot of drama there. Now I have to go off and go to South America and do medical things. So
That's a thing too. Did we talk about that? I don't think we talked about that on the show yet.
we
That's a
haven't.
new development. I don't know. You wanna hold on to that one, or do you want to talk about it?
I can. I'll tacitly talk about it, like
Yeah,
around it,
yeah,
because we don't want to give a lot of the details out of it,
right.
and that's actually for security reasons because of where we're going. I am going on a medical missions trip with um, an
Nonprofit, right?
international
Yeah.
organization that is recognized by the UN, and I'm going to a country in South America specifically to do medical work with a team of doctors. So I will be their paramedic.
Hmm.
We go down there. We're gonna set up a clinic. There's several clinics in this country. We're gonna go down there, and then we branch out from those clinics to go to underserved communities in that
Mhm.
country. So I'm doing a short one, a short mission, like medical mission trip this time. And if I like it with these guys, I'll go back for a longer one. I've got a friend who's with this organization, and she's in Tanzania right now.
Hmm.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, that's actually how I got hooked up with them, found out about it. But yeah, it serves my risk need.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and then helping others. I think we're
yep,
ingrained for that.
yep,
That's the wolf in you. You can be a helpful wolf.
yep. I think so too. And I'm really am looking forward to it. So I do have, if you connected with me on Facebook, I have all the information ish, not all of it, but
Right.
a large majority of it, plus a link if you feel so inclined to help donate to the trip. It pays for my plane ticket and for all the medical supplies we're going to use down there. So
And obviously for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they pay you,
yes,
the
and all the
medical
cocaine I'm
profession.
going to buy.
The buying isn't the problem. It's the getting it back.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Have you
I'm going
been
to use my
working
prison
on,
wallet, dude.
you've been working on gaping? I mean,
Yeah, I'm working on my prison wallet.
gauging, are you gauging so you can
1 kilo at a time, sir. That's a big old
Mike,
brick. I will literally
Mike,
shit a brick.
Mike gained 50 kilos while he was gone. I don't know how that happened.
The food was so good.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got a lot of energy all of a sudden, too.
Yeah.
Super skinny. Skinny, but he's really heavy.
Yes.
But yeah, that's going on. And then, the world is still the world. We have Russia retaliating for the Ukraine, blowing up their strategic bombers from within inside Russia, which was a
Those
brilliant,
those
brilliant move.
drones are
Yeah.
$400 drone. So there's $400 drones. So it's still a lot of money, but
But
how
not like
much?
buying a global hawk
Right.
or a
Right.
pred.
Yeah.
And they
That's
they made false ceilings on
yeah.
shipping containers
Yeah.
that were remotely controlled, that the people driving the semis didn't know there was a false ceiling on there. So they
Right.
just drove them into Russia.
Hmm.
And then at some point it was released. All these drones go up, and some of them, here's the crazy part, some of them lost contact with their operators. And because they were controlled by AI, just kept on going on their mission
Hmm.
and still blew up. Like it was a huge, huge blow,
Yeah.
pun intended, to the Russian strategic bomber force.
Right.
And because of that, Russia went in and just started rocketing the shit out of all of the Ukraine, like they have been anyway,
Right.
while still saying that the Ukrainians don't want peace and there has to be unconditional surrender and rejecting all of the things because somebody said, if I'm elected, I'll end the war in 24 hours and
Yeah.
didn't. For obvious reasons, you can't.
Yeah.
We still have Russians in the border of Finland. We have the EU partners pushing what would be and still are NATO partners and EU, because the EU has its own military wing too, its own military organization outside of the NATO, pushing their military partners to up their military spending to 5% of GDP, which is really high considering they're at like 1.5% right now. and some countries aren't even meeting that. That's always, I
Do
don't
we, do we know?
dislike NATO as a idea, but I dislike NATO because we fund NATO
Yeah,
and
I was going to ask that.
countries got
What's the U.S. putting in right now? Do you know?
to NATO
Yeah,
hundreds of billions of dollars.
but our compared to our GDP.
Um,
But look that up.
yeah, I'll have to look that
Unless,
up.
yeah,
So to NATO, I'm not sure. To our own spending, we spend more on defense than all other um, what do they call it? Societies, countries, developed countries, all other developed countries combined every year on our own defense. And so
yeah.
that doesn't include what we're putting into NATO. I don't actually know offhand,
So
but it's a lot.
we contribute 16% of their annual budget.
Ooh, that's a
That's
lot of money,
That's a
dude.
lot. That's not our GDP. Now, this is so I want to, and I want to talk about AI today anyway, a little bit if we've got time for it.
Yeah.
But so the AI overview, when I did a search for it, puts us at about 3.4% as of 23, 24. So the last couple of years, we're at about 3.4%.
And most countries put like 1%.
Yeah. So we're not at the 5% either, which that was my question. And that's,
Yeah.
again, all of that with the asterisk on it, that it's uh, AI. I'm not going to
Well,
deep dive into it for time reasons right now.
and it's proportional, right? 3.4% of the American GDP being one of the largest
Yeah,
economies in the
yeah,
world
yeah.
is a shit ton of money. Shit ton of money. Which I'm okay with.
Right,
But um that's why we side note, that's why we go to war because war is good money. Not
right.
that I'm a proponent of war, having been in many of them. I'm not actually a proponent of
Yeah,
going into other countries unless it's a direct, like we can articulate a direct threat.
yeah. And then yes. Okay, we're good. That's a good
Yeah.
baseline, of course. And I'm thinking back on this GDP. GDP is also a number. It's a
Yeah.
statistic, just like unemployment, just
Yeah.
like how much we have in debt, because the money that we have in what the amount that
The
we have
public
in
debt,
debt, yeah, isn't it,
the whole
it doesn't it doesn't reflect anything. It doesn't mean money doesn't mean anything anymore.
it's like a whose line is it anyway? It's all made up and the facts don't matter. So,
Yeah, the points don't matter.
well, and
Yeah,
we have the defense budget, which is what that 3.4% is of our GDP. And then we have special projects that are funded by Congress that don't go into the defense budget that are actually for defense.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole nother side of spending for the defense of the US, for intelligence, for counterterrorism,
Mm.
for special project research, for there's stuff that's not in the defense budget that we're still spending money on that should go towards that 3.4% that doesn't. So we spend more than we spend more than any other country,
Yeah.
hands down.
That 3.4% of our GDP goes to the NATO defense, just
Yeah.
because you talk about Congress
Yep.
too, right? That which is
Yep. So
separate.
Congress
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
a lot of our money goes toward military, something
oh
or
my God, so much of it. So 3.4% going towards NATO's budget. Um, and you have most countries in NATO spending like 1.5%. They're now moving up. Like Germany's spending quite a bit more, England's spending quite a bit more
Mhm.
on it because they're smart and they understand what the writing on the wall. Because the EU just came out and they're expecting Russia to attack Europe within the next 5 years. So they're
Right.
trying to push because all the markers are there.
Mhm.
And if you look
It's
internet and with your international security lens on,
Mhm.
international political science, you can all of the markers are there
Right.
inside Russia, their military operations and what's happening around in Europe. So the European leadership is just expecting it to happen. So they're pushing other countries to spend that 5%, try and get close to that so they can just build up and be ready.
And
And we got a
so
bunch of
I don't want to
minor
be Captain
population.
Obvious here or anything, but isn't Ukraine part of Europe?
I know, yeah, you would think it's
I
part of
mean,
Eurasia, Eastern
yeah,
Europe,
yeah.
Eurasia.
Like
Um,
it's already happened. Why?
yeah,
Yeah, but it's them, not us, I
but
guess.
it's the Ukraine and they used to be part of Russia, so we don't really count it and they're not part of NATO, so we can really kind of ignore that. Even though, they're like there's issues with Lithuania and they're on the border of Finland and there's just a bunch of shit going on, man. that, and then they've got foreign fighters from Korea and China fighting in the Ukraine. Russia does.
Oh
So
yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah,
involving.
yeah,
So once you get other countries, and here's the thing, here's the dirty little secret. And we've been talking about slow burn World War III or global conflict one.
yes,
Um, Once you get another country involved in a war that you are participating in another country, do you know what that becomes?
yeah. That
It
it's
becomes a world war.
right. So okay, yes, and so
And
that's
we're involved there
Russia.
too.
That's Russia. Now let's talk about Israel and
Holy shit.
so
Yeah.
Netanyahu asking. Now I've seen this, and I want to come back to the AI thing in a little bit. But what I've seen and what I understand has happened is Netanyahu asked Trump to back Israel in attacking Iran,
Mhm.
and Trump said no, not yet. Right, not
Yeah.
now. I think
Yeah,
is was the
not right now
solution.
because we're trying to do a nuclear deal with Iran, and
Right.
they keep turning it down, saying that
And
it isn't.
Israel wants, yeah, Israel just wants to attack them, get out in front of it that way. So
So
even if we're not involved, even though we've said no because we're so closely tied to Israel, if Israel attacks Iran, what you're talking about, other countries being involved, just by our relationship, it'll already appear that way, won't it?
yes, and here's the other dirty secret. We're already militarily involved in supporting Israel because all of their bombs and their fighters and their weapons, that they're all American. They're a couple generations behind what we use, but
Hmm.
Israel uses we have strategic weapon systems placed in Israel that are the US. We do the same
Oh
thing
yeah,
in
yeah,
Italy.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
have strategic weapon systems in Italy that the Italians are ostensibly holding for us, but
Mhm.
they're ours. Plus, because Israel couldn't attack Iran, yeah, like how I walked around that.
No,
Um,
I'm laughing because it feels like my son asked me the other day, and this is a weird story, but it fits. The other day, my son asked me if I had any golf clubs, and I do. I've got a set of golf clubs, and he asked how much I want for them, and I don't golf. You don't. I
yeah,
tried it for a while, not
me
interested.
too.
So I
Not,
told him I don't need anything. Just hold on to them until I never need them again. And I think that's what happens with our previous technology in the military, right?
yeah,
Hold on to
yep.
these until we never need them again, and whatever you do with them, none of our business.
Well, and we sell Israel weapons technologies and platforms that are a couple generations behind what we're flying, and that's why Israel is one of the most aggressive counterintelligence collectors against the
Yeah.
U.S. And they're an ally of ours, and they are super aggressive collecting against us. But because they couldn't attack Iran, do you know what they went and did? They went and attacked Yemen.
Oh, nobody cares about Yemen.
Yeah, they just started blowing up the Houthis again. So
Yeah.
they're like, we're fucking attacking somebody. You said somebody's getting bombed. So they
Yeah.
went and they just fucking blew up the Houthis again.
Somebody
So
somebody needs to get the leaders in well all of the world countries, but especially Israel. They need to get laid.
yeah, so
Fucking
they got
calm down.
they've got international blue balls for sure.
They do. Somebody show them a smaller penis so they can feel better about
Oh,
themselves.
it's crazy. So that's going on. Then we still have Africa. That's a hot spot
Yeah.
still. And
By the
Burkina
way,
Faso.
we didn't talk about this. What did you think of the title from last week's or last episode? Africa, Africant. That
I
was one
liked
of
it.
my favorite. That was one of
Yeah,
my
I
favorite
liked it.
titles. I love that little bit. That's the spin I get to do for these shows. I don't know what this one's going to be called
Are
yet,
you
but
an African or an
Africa,
Africant?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I liked
African,
it, man.
Africant. Yes.
I've
Anyway, that's I just needed that little stroke on my on my
ego
ego
penis.
this morning. My aegis, my
Your
aegis.
aegis, yeah. And then so Burkina
The
Faso is
Kino.
like imploding again after their
Oh yeah, yeah.
rebellion.
Hmm.
It's not surprisingly to no one
Yeah,
who understands the stuff. It's not going well.
yeah.
So that's imploding. And then we have the US. So, I mean, we have all that stuff on the
So,
international stage.
yeah,
We have China trying to implement an economic partnership with Asian countries, and the Koreans and the Japanese are like, yeah, actually, we might do this. We might cut
yeah.
out the US. We don't need a middleman anymore. Why don't we just do this with China?
Well, we
But we
forced
also
that
still have,
hand. Yeah.
yeah, we did. We absolutely forced this to happen
Hmm.
because China is a global economic power.
Hmm.
And 30, like over 35% of the world's trade goes through the Chinese sea, like the straits, right?
Yeah, where they're
And
deploying more and more
just
aircraft
gonna,
carriers.
I was just going to get to that. Yep, they're
Yeah.
doing very aggressive maneuvers off of Taiwan, who we've now said we're not going to help if China invades. Hegseth has come out and said, well, man, China, Taiwan, you're pretty much on your own now,
Yep.
which has kind of been a stance for us. The opposite of that has been a stance for us for a very long time. And we will defend Taiwan's independence as a democratic nation. And now we're like, meh. So
Well,
China knows
we're
that.
doing the opposite. I mean,
Yeah,
Taiwan is definitely involved in the tariff issues.
dude, it's
Yeah.
so we have all of that happening around the world. It is heightened, like super heightened. Um,
Tense, right? We're ready for that match.
oh,
And before
we're
we
right
before
there.
we get to domestic, before we get to that, I want to talk about AI. There's, dramatically increasing, growing quickly, and I don't think I even talked to you about this yet. I've been using Copilot, so Microsoft
Sure.
has the AI Copilot, and we've been hearing for months, if not, a couple years now, that what we're seeing in AI is that it'll make your work more efficient. And I am a case where that is true. My job is a lot of data and financial information that I work in, and I did find that using Copilot with the Microsoft products, it was I can compare it to using the way we've used Google, but without having to tell Google exactly what we need. We can be a
Oh,
little bit
wow.
less specific and have a conversation with it. No, take that data and do this instead with it, and it does the thing. In this case, the one big one that I did, it took the information within Excel and filtered it and compared it and gave me information. I also did that
Wow.
with some hyperlinks that compare some old and new ones and update some bookmarks and things. So it is getting to a point where we can use it. And I wanted to let our listeners know, if you're like I have been, kind of keeping at arm's length because it's going to change so quickly, is it something that's of any value? It's kind of getting to that point. Now, the problem I have with AI that we see on the videos, where it is this AI or not, and the articles, and even just during this show, I looked up information and I don't trust the information. And it occurred to me, this is why I want to talk about it now. It occurred to me in this instance, what we're missing in AI is references. How did AI get this information? And the
Where'd it
reason
come
they
from?
don't, yeah, the reason they don't do that is because the companies that are creating this aren't necessarily getting it uh, by giving money to the people they're getting it from, right? So there's that missing piece of, yeah, we've got all this information and you can trust it or not, but we don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
What do you call
Cite
that when you write a paper? If there's a citation,
bibliography or some
yeah,
references.
yeah, if there's a citation there that 3.36% of its GDP on defense in 2023 to NATO, okay, here's where that information came from. I could click that and confirm it. That's what we're missing. And
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting further and further away from it, especially as a lot of our society doesn't care where it came
Yep.
from, right? Like it's
Well,
it's easier and lazier just to do it the way it's being done now.
and we've taken off this new bill, the big beautiful bill. It's gonna get passed.
Well, God,
Um,
we are so close to idiocracy.
Dude, that bill actually takes some of the like the guardrails off of
Mhm.
AI for states.
For a
And
decade.
yeah, isn't that
Eh,
insane?
You know how long a decade is in terms of AI right now?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I just watched a video and it was made by a company talking about how the generation older than us, our parents' generation, is getting faked, is
Oh
being
yeah.
duped by AI because they didn't grow up with it. Like we
Right.
kind of have a tacit understanding of it, so we can have some discernment
Hmm.
about what may or may not be in the and our kids generation grew up with technology, so they're a little better at seeing it now. But they created a video of people talking, and if you're not really paying attention, it that deep fake video looks very real. But in the
Yeah.
video they say, well, this isn't real because I'm AI. And then they go to another news story and they talk about
Yeah, I
like,
saw
hey,
that
this
one too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it
And
was
it was,
really
yeah.
good.
There
Like,
you can see in their face a little bit, but that's where
yep,
we're at today. And then
yep,
I think, where's our military at? They're at least two generations ahead
at
from ours.
least. Yeah.
So yeah, we're
So
and
10 years, in
we're
two
not going to
years,
survive
you're
that.
really going to have a problem trusting anything that comes out because you're not going to really know. Because in that video, they do a couple mock news and like
Yes.
news
Yep.
stories out there, people talking, and then they're at the end, they're like, actually, this isn't real because we're AI.
Yeah.
in 2 years, you're not going to see that in the face because the
Yeah, right.
background and the people looked very real.
Mhm. And they had the appropriate number of fingers, and
Yeah, oh yeah,
they
all that
didn't
stuff.
morph through each other, and
So
actually that's so
it,
okay. Great transition to what's happening in LA because was it yesterday or the day before when an Australian reporter was shot
got
by a
shot
rubber
with a
bullet?
rubber bullet. Yeah,
When
it
that
was.
first came up in my feed, I honestly thought, well, that's fake, and I moved on until I saw a few more videos, and then I started researching. Okay, that this is something that happened, and then she's interviewed since and things.
I
So
I'll be honest with you. I thought it was fake too. I
yeah,
actually had to go out and look at it because I thought it was fake. I'm like, ah, that fucking, because you can see,
yep,
you can clearly see the officer aim his rifle,
hmm
shoot her in the leg.
yeah,
She's clearly a reporter.
yeah.
So,
Now, okay, so I want to talk about that since we're
ooh,
there. Just because you call yourself a reporter doesn't mean that you get a free pass everywhere.
also true. Also true.
You are because what's a reporter today? You and I are reporters.
Well, you
We
got the
have
Second Amendment, the First Amendment auditors that go into public buildings and want to record, and like I'm doing a news story, and they're not affiliated with anybody.
right. That's not a no. You're not. And even if you are, even if it's well, I'm dating myself, it could be Dan Rather shows up, and that doesn't automatically protect him
No.
from. I mean, free speech doesn't mean you get to just do whatever the hell you want and be wherever you want and expect a certain level of safety in a situation that clearly
Yeah.
isn't.
If you're standing in between riot officers and people throwing Molotov cocktails and
Yeah,
bricks and commercial grade fireworks,
right.
shooting them at, like, that'll kill somebody,
Yeah, yeah.
at law enforcement officers. And by the way, we have, and you can believe it or not, but there's video of of ostensibly gang members, but they're part of Latino gang members shooting at law enforcement
hmm
officers with firearms.
Yeah.
So we know that's happening, and you can say that it's isolated. And I have friends who are like, well, but they're isolated. It's a certain small percentage of all the protests. Okay, but it's still happening.
Right. And it's not a protest anymore, which I know you want
Yeah.
to talk about.
Yeah. Oh
Just real quick,
man.
I do want to say this because I took the devil's advocate stance. You called it though. She was shot at by someone in a uniform.
Yep.
That wasn't right. I wasn't trying to make
Nope.
the point that
I
the
agree with you.
officer was right. I just wanted to make that point that there shouldn't be an expectation that you can put press in your boulder hat
And
and
go anywhere you
immediately-
want.
yeah, that's not the way it works. So
Yeah.
yeah, that okay. Now that I've said that, let's talk about violent protests. I keep seeing that in news feeds.
Yeah, so there's no
Violent
such thing as a violent protest.
Right.
You are either protesting with a protected under your First Amendment right, which says you have the right to peaceably assemble and petition for redress,
Mhm.
and then you're rioting. The minute there's violence involved, you're rioting. And there are people that will go so far as to say it's insurrection. I don't believe that it is. I believe that January 6th was insurrection
Mhm.
at the Capitol, 100%. And I have conservative friends who absolutely vehemently disagree with me and think I'm off my fucking rocker. But I've been in countries that have had insurrection and civil war, so I do kind of know what it looks like.
Mm.
Um,
Well, by definition, they attacked a government
yeah, illegally,
building
yeah, with violence,
with violence and
yeah,
with
and injured
weapons.
and killed police officers
Yeah.
in the process.
How is that not?
And I don't care who you think they were funded by. I don't give a fuck.
Right,
That
right.
that's insurrection. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
who it was funded by.
And
That is
yeah,
insurrection.
you know someone personally that was involved with that
Yep.
that regrets it and
Yep.
admitted, and I, we're obviously not going to talk about the individual, but
Yeah.
the reason I brought that up is I could see a person of sane mind getting caught up in the emotion of the moment and becoming involved in that. That doesn't take away from the fact that that's what it was.
Yeah,
And you
100%.
were still part of it, and now you've got
Yep.
to face the consequences. And
And the sitting president, who was a lame duck president, was Donald Trump because he was
right,
being replaced by Biden, did nothing about it.
right.
And his words, like speech, he had insightful speech.
Mhm.
And that's a thing, whether
Yes.
you like it or not. We use it all the time. Hell, we use it on this podcast.
Right, right.
So insightful speech, and then did nothing about it. It was, by definition, insurrection. What's happening right now in LA is a riot.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're burning vehicles, and I don't care if it's 10 fucking percent of the people out there that are burning vehicles and throwing rocks and shooting, which it's not just 10%, but
It could be one person.
yeah, it doesn't fucking matter. It becomes once violence is put into the equation, you're rioting.
Mhm.
It's the same thing as the definition of terrorism. Terrorism is using force and violence to achieve a political, ideological, or religious outcome. As long as you're not using force, it's not terrorism,
Mhm.
right? I can say a bunch of shit and it's not terrorism, but the minute I use force or violence for that same aim, it becomes terrorism. So you can protest and say some really nasty shit. You can yell, spit at police officers. It happens all the time.
I would think spitting is
But it's not
table.
in certain places. It depends on the state that you're in.
Hmm.
It's not considered assault in certain states. And you can say all kinds of violent stuff. Like, I hope you fucking die, or, I'm going to kill you. But if you don't do anything, if there's no action after that, it's still protected speech.
Hmm.
It's still protected under the First Amendment. The minute that you have an action that coincides with what you're out there saying, and it's a violent action, say, I don't know, burning fucking cars or taking chunks of concrete and throwing them through the windows of police vehicles while you're standing on an overpass. That's rioting. And it becomes a riot. So there's law and order that needs to be restored by LAPD and LA Sheriff's Office. And they're out there trying to do that. There's a curfew right now in LA. And last night I saw ostensibly a newscast from last night where there's a curfew and downtown LA is pretty empty right now because you can't be out there. And so because there's rioting and there's violence and there's order that needs to be restored, and LAPD and LASO aren't really up to the task of quelling a lot of it. And oh, by the way, you have politicians that are stoking that fire. You have Maxine Waters that's standing right in front of a camera saying there's absolutely no violence that's happened, and that's a lie. And whatever you've heard didn't happen. Like, nobody's burned anything, nobody's shot anybody, nobody's hurt anybody. And she's saying that shit while people are burning cars and throwing rocks and concrete through windshields and throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting commercial grade fireworks at police officers, for fuck's sake. And I don't care whether you believe, and here's the side note. So people say, well, Trump shouldn't have been, we can talk about immigration policy and enforcement and the Fifth Amendment and due process in a whole nother podcast, because I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But people are saying, well, Trump shouldn't, he sent ICE in there because he incited this violence. That's the same thing. Like, he did a thing, so we're allowed to do this bad thing. He did a bad thing, so we can do a bad thing. That's the same thing that MAGA Trumper Republicans are saying. Well, Biden did a bad thing, so we can do this thing.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that. We've talked about that before. Because somebody else does a bad thing doesn't make your bad thing right. And I fucking hate that analogy that people make. It drives me nuts. Yeah. Two wrongs absolutely do not make a right. Now, the Constitution says we have the right to, and we have the duty to fight tyranny. I don't think we're there yet, but I don't like Trump, and I think he's very authoritarian, and I don't like the road we're going down. But because immigration officers are enforcing legal immigration law, whether you like the way they're doing it or not, is not tyranny. I don't like the fact that we're not giving due process. And again, we can talk about what the Fifth Amendment says later, but just here's a hint. It says person, not citizen. All persons are allowed due process. So, but the immigration law can be enforced, and people can be arrested for being here illegally because, surprise, it's fucking against the federal law to be here illegally. Whether you like it or not. And I've been a proponent of changing immigration law for a long time, since I was in grad school. I used to get a lot of shit for it when I was in grad school, the first time. But that's the law, and they're enforcing it. And the LAPD and LASO are not helping immigration. They have a policy that they won't help the federal government enforce immigration law.
Right.
However, they do have the right to enforce civil law for rioting and insurrection. And if you're going to protest and there's going to be a large gathering, they have the right to be out there to ensure that it's a peaceful protest. and peaceful gathering. And when it turns not peaceful, it turns violent, they have the right to then arrest you and defend themselves and push forward and use tear gas and rubber bullets and get the fire department out there with the giant hoses and all that stuff. They have the right to do that. That's law on both sides. And by the way, the president of the United States has the right to call up the National Guard, even if the governor of the state says no. And this is a big contention right now. Well, he didn't have the right to go around the governor and call up the National Guard. He certainly doesn't have the right to call in federal troops like the Marines because it violates posse comitatus, which is the Posse Comitatus Act was passed in 1867 post-Civil War.
Right.
It doesn't violate any of that. And here's why. Since 1933, when you enlist in the National Guard, you take an oath to the governor of the state and to the Constitution of the United States, the federal government, and all National Guards are funded in some way by the United States National Guard Bureau and federal funds. So they're getting federal funds. So they're beholden to the federal government and the governor of the state. The governor of the state has the right to mobilize them and use them in the state for natural disaster, law and order, that kind of stuff. But so does the President of the United States under Title 10, USC. And Congress passed a law in 1987 allowing the President of the United States to bypass the governor of a state when they deny the President of the United States access to the National Guard of that state. And it was California and I believe Oregon, Oregon or Washington. I think it was Oregon. Reagan wanted to mobilize the National Guard, parts of the National Guard, both of those states for an operation that he wanted to have done. And the governors of both states said, absolutely not. They're ours. We're not going to mobilize them. We don't support this. So Congress was like, bet, and passed a law that says the president can do that. So guess what, kids? The president has the right, whether you like it or not, to go around the governor of a state and activate the National Guard on Title 10, United States Code. And that's what happened. He's not the first one to do it. There's a lot of people saying this is unprecedented. Nobody's ever done it. And we forget about the LA riots for Rodney King in 1992 when George W. Bush sent in the infantry, active duty U.S. infantry, and the Marines to LA. This is not the first time that this has happened. And here's what they're doing. They're not violating posse comitatus because posse comitatus, that's where the word posse comes from. When you hear about a posse in the Wild West, it's just a gathering of citizens to go do law enforcement things. I deputize you, you're a posse, let's go fucking get Billy the Kid, right? That's, we think of posse, but it's actually posse comitatus. And so when the troops are federalized, they're not in any way, shape, or form doing law enforcement functions. What they're federalized to do is to provide security for the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Office who are doing law enforcement functions. That's their whole job. And surprise, that's what they're doing. They're providing security for those officers who are doing the arrests. The 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines of the 1st Marine Division were also, they're in 29 Palms in California. They were all 500 of them were sent into LA as well to do the same thing. So now you have the U.S. Marine Corps on the ground too, federal U.S. Marine Corps, not reserves. And the Marine Corps doesn't have guard, only the Air Force and the Army. So they're active duty Marines that are in LA right now that are providing security for law enforcement, doing law enforcement duties. So it does not in any way, shape, or form violate posse comitatus. And in posse comitatus, there are rules that allow the U.S. military, either Guard who is on Title 10 or federal military troops, to be law enforcement. It doesn't prevent it completely. There are rules in there that allow them to do it if the Insurrection Act is enacted by the president, which he's talked about doing, but he hasn't. And there's going to be the tipping point for us. If the Insurrection Act is enacted, that's going to be a problem, which I don't agree with whatsoever, the Insurrection Act being enacted for what's going on in LA, because it's what happened in 92 as well. We can get past this without that happening, because then the Insurrection Act gives the president of the United States very broad powers, like martial law and all kinds of shit, which will go south very, very quickly. So altogether, just so everyone knows, The president has the authority to go around the governor of California and mobilize the guard under Title 10. And he has the right to send the U.S. Marines into LA so that both of those two services can provide security for the law enforcement officers who are doing law enforcement, to include customs and immigration officers that are still arresting people. He has the right to do that. Gavin Newsom just came out, the governor of California, and said he's going to sue.
Already has.
Yeah. And lost, by the way. The district court judge just sided with Trump. And here, yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, the district court judge that is overseeing this case, just so everybody knows, was appointed under Bill Clinton. So it's not a Trump appointee, it's not a Bush appointee. Right. He was appointed in 1997 under Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat. So, and it's a district court in California, which normally, like the Ninth Circuit, usually leans left anyway. But this judge said, no, Trump actually has the right to do this because there's precedent and law that says that he can. So it was a political stunt by Gavin Newsom because he has aspirations to run for the president,
right,
the office of the president in the next election.
Watching his,
we talked about that before.
Yeah, watching his rebuttal comments, he speaks like that's what he's intending.
100%. So it's going nowhere. It's not going to go, and somebody can try to do it again, and it's not going to go anywhere. The minute that Trump enacts the Insurrection Act, I think there's going to be legal issues. He's not going to be supported on that. I don't see that being supported at all, because that gives him way too much power to do a lot of bad things. And yes, he does lean towards authoritarianism, and I'm no fan of him, and I don't support him. All I'm saying is what he did right now is absolutely legal. Absolutely legal.
And it can't be a surprise to anyone that people don't trust that because since he's been in office both times, and especially his first few months, it seems like he is pushing, like he's pushing the boundaries, right? Like he's trying to do things way beyond his scope and ability. So it's no surprise that people are saying, how can he do this when it's not something that's, yes, it's happened, but it's not common, right? Like we don't see this in every presidency or in.
No, he's been pushing the boundaries of democracy towards authoritarianism since day one. I mean, and we have documented U.S. citizens being deported by ICE to El Salvadorian prison, and they're actual U.S. citizens. And one of them just got released and came back to the U.S., and it was under the radar, right? Because Trump and Musk broke up. And that blew up, and Musk said, well, and remember when Trump came into office, he said he was going to release the Kennedy files and he was going to release the Epstein list. That was two big things. Now he's not releasing the Epstein list. Like, they're not releasing it. And Musk was like, well, that's because he's fucking on it. I firmly believe he's on it. Him and Epstein were good friends. But that became a scandal in the news, and all of a sudden this guy gets released from the El Salvadorian prison, a U.S. citizen, and comes back. And so and it's very Trump, and their political team is very savvy at this. Well, we're in deep water, so let's just flood it with other stuff. Let's distract people. And so then that story
that's how aliens happen.
That story went away.
Everybody's
like, oh, cool, this U.S. citizen got released finally. We're like, wait, but
that points back to the due process thing, and that's what I feel like. So we're talking about, and one of the things that we see in LA that comes up a lot are these ICE agents showing up in unmarked vehicles wearing civilian clothes, and then the question comes, exactly, and so the question comes up, well, obviously they're going to get pushback because they're not proving who they are, and how do we know that they're authorized to do what they're.
Well, when they get into, so here's the thing: when you get in, you can wear civilian clothes, you can be in civilian vehicles that are blacked out. I've wore a face mask on an operation before. People are like, well, they're fucking cowards because they're wearing face masks. Well, then that makes me a coward. The reason why they're covering their face, and you have law enforcement officers, because we just had an incident in Minneapolis where the local task force was executing a sex crimes trafficking warrant, and a politician in Minnesota said it was ICE going in to do immigration enforcement, and people fucking rioted and it got violent. But there are officers, local officers from Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and Minneapolis PD that have their face covered on camera walking back and forth. And do you know why they do that? So they don't get fucking doxxed.
Yeah.
That's why we do that. Because I live in the community where I work and I don't want to be doxxed because I have my family here. And you can like that or not, you can believe that or not, but that's why we do that.
Yeah.
So they can show up in civilian clothes, they can show up in civilian vehicles, they can walk in there. And when they get up to the person, by law, you have to identify yourself.
Right.
We all have badge and creds. I'm Special Agent Mike Cyan. I'm here because you are under arrest for violating the immigration, whatever, right? Not that I enforced immigration law, but you're under arrest because you're a terrorist, whatever.
Yeah.
You have to identify yourself. You do.
And just like anything
You have
else,
no credentials.
yeah, and just like anything else, it can be abused, and people assume people can easily assume the abuse because it's already heightened, because that's the expectation, and
Well, and that's what we lean to as a society now. We just lean towards it being incorrect and wrong. But they still have the legal right to do that. They can dress like that. They can show up like that.
yeah,
And they can arrest people because I have,
Yeah.
if you're in violation of federal law. And then they can take them away. And then due process begins. That's when the due process begins. And that's like, again, that's a whole hour of discussion.
which we should do.
We should, because people need to, you need to read the fucking Constitution of the United States.
So
Stop Googling it. Stop Googling it and get an actual copy of it and fucking read the document.
I'm just going to have AI summarize it for me.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I don't have time for that.
I have a copy of the Constitution here, and I have a book breaking down the Constitution. Like it's in
Who
my
broke
shelf
it down?
right there.
Who broke it down?
A constitutional scholar.
And I saw a headline this morning as we were preparing to get on. I didn't tell you this. Fox News, I swear to God, the headline was Trump. It was the soldiers at Fort Bragg were impressed or entertained by Trump's signature dance. Like that was the headline, and then it showed him doing his little were they
really?
Yeah,
I will tell you, I've been at a lot of military functions where a politician comes in and we'll clap and we'll laugh, but we're not fucking entertained. We're there because we were told
or
to be
anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
State of
Go ahead.
No, that's the state of our political system, though, and media system, which there's another show.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was going to go. Okay, so I know we're talking about a lot of things here, but we're doing this show on the 11th of June, and part of that is because a lot of these things are coming together right now. And on the 14th, is the 14th Flag Day? I think it's Flag Day also, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Trump's birthday, and it's the birthday of the
250th.
Army, and it's No King Day.
Is that right?
That's what they're calling the 14th. Those who want. So on the 14th, there's a lot of protests planned across the United States, to include in North Dakota, in the four biggest cities of North Dakota, and it's called No King's Day. And so I don't think we're going to have a problem in this state. What I think we're going to have, and you can not like me when I say this, and guess what? I don't fucking care if you guys like me or not when I say this. We're going to have a bunch of low testosterone males and blue-haired females out there protesting and chanting in North Dakota. That's it. It's going to be a small amount of people. I don't think we're going to have any issues. But what we will have in some other cities, like Minneapolis, LA, San Diego, New York, you're going to see way bigger issues than that. So on the 14th, and it's a counter to, and they plan on protesting in DC during the parade too. It's a counter to the parade that the president of the United States is ostensibly, air quote, throwing for the birthday of the United States Army. Now, this parade is going to cost the taxpayers around $45 million.
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it just happens to be on his birthday, too. Oh, by the way.
Here's the thing. It's the 250th birthday of the Army. It's only his 79th birthday. It's not even a monumental birthday for him. So I don't believe the hype.
Well, because
it was his 90th.
A couple of months ago, he talked about having a parade for his birthday. That was how it started. And he got massive pushback on that. So now the parade's actually for the Army's birthday.
Yeah.
It just happens to be on his birthday.
I am
I don't agree
absolutely
with it
certain
whatsoever.
someone is going to catch someone giving the salute at some point, the heart
Oh God, yeah.
Musk salute at some point. Somebody's going to catch somebody accidentally, like they're trying to swat a fly or something, and that's going to happen as they pass by. Is he going to be on a grandstand surrounded by
Yes, dude. There's a pass
stormtroopers?
review. It's called a pass review stand. There's going to be
Oh,
pass
for real? I was
reviews.
kidding. That's
No,
actually
there
happening?
is. Yes.
Have you
I
seen the
saw a video of them building the stand where everybody's going to be. Yeah,
uh
dude, it's you can see the White House in the background. So there's going to be
we need
it's fucking
we
ridiculous.
need to look into the licensing for the movie Idiocracy, and we just need to show that as an episode of the Gray Man
Dude,
podcast. This
it's
is
nuts.
yeah.
I
Uh,
I don't support the parade in any way, shape, or form.
but you
Uh,
were army-ish, armish.
Yeah, I was Army and I was Air Force, and I still don't. We don't do parades like this. We don't. We do
Well,
parades when we win wars,
yeah,
like, and we're honor like people come back like parade down Central Avenue in New
yeah,
York,
yeah.
that kind of shit. That's what we do.
And we
Hometown parades for troops coming back from overseas. We don't do
just
fucking parades for the President of the United States because that's what dictators do.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what it smells like to me. So I'm not a fan of this in any way, shape, or form. And we've been all over the map in this episode, but I mean, honestly, I felt like we did need to have do an episode prior to June 14th because of what's going on in LA right now and
Yeah.
all the division and all the bullshit and rhetoric that's going on right now with that and people that don't know what they're talking about on both sides,
Yeah.
liberal and conservative, that have no, that are so far off base when they're yelling, but they're really convicted and not really understanding that you cannot like it and it's still legal.
You cannot like it, and it's still legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
All right.
old people. We got old people in the United States that don't like the fact that don't like marijuana. Guess what? There are plenty of places where it's legal. So you can not like something and it can still be legal. Sorry to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
And you can have moral outrage about it. And then what I would tell you is change the fucking law. You should put pressure as a collective if you don't like something on your elected representatives and have the law changed. Because we've skipped that these days. It's not even a thing anymore. We don't like something, we're gonna burn a fucking city.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't.
Speaking of which, how's Portland, Oregon doing these days? They still on
It's
fire?
still an absolute
So
shit.
I actually had that thought. If because there was rioting happening there, and that didn't get taken care of by the previous administration to the standards that we've talked about. And Trump, if Trump were in office at the time that happened, would he have sent the National Guard in to fix up something like that?
Good
Like,
question.
yeah. So I think in terms of I don't want the violence to be happening. I don't want the National Guard or the Marines to have to go in and deal with this shit. And I guess here's where I'm at with all of this. I just want to be able to believe somebody about something that's happening in the world right now. Because
I
even when we
know.
talk about you talk about there's video of uh, gang members shooting at the police. The first thing, and this isn't a reflection on you, but the first thing
No,
that pops into my head is, but prove it. How are you going to prove it? We can't prove anything anymore because
totally get it.
it's so easily faked, especially shaky videos, and that's what we get now, right? It's the Sasquatch thing. Like
Yeah.
all we get is terrible video of these things happening. Uh, and I mean I just I want to believe in something, and it makes me happy to be a Christian because I don't have to at the end of the day, and I don't want to make this into a religious thing any more than it's a political thing. But the other day I was having a conversation with a pastor friend and I talked about we need, let's pray for what's happening
Mm.
in LA. And I regardless of your feelings or beliefs, there's no harm in that as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned. And the conversation
absolutely.
that we had then was, yeah, and there's nothing to be done, right? Like, so we'll pray, and whatever your higher power is, in my case, God has a plan, and whatever his part in, or whatever's going on there, it's part of a bigger thing that I sure as hell don't understand. And it's, it's bigger than that from a spiritual standpoint for me, but that's one small piece. So yeah, you're right. We've been all over the place because everything is happening all over the place right now. Everything is a powder keg. And I wish this is you and I have talked about time travel over the years, and you've always wanted to go back in time, and I've always wanted to go forward in time. I wish we could take the information you and I have right now and do a podcast in 1941. 1941. Like what's happening, or
Yeah.
1910. Like what's going on in the world these days, with
Yeah.
like how different was
1912.
it?
Yeah. See, overseas, we got some things happening.
Yeah.
Transatlantic.
Coming to you
Transatlantic
live.
podcast
Yeah. Yeah.
from the theaters from our studios in North Dakota.
Yeah. I used to broadcast from the basement of the Lalonde Hotel in Sydney, Montana. That was actually just you saying that. That was early 90s, late 80s. That was my broadcast booth, was in the basement of the Lalonde Hotel, and then I'd make a toilet flush sound.
And we learned that building no longer exists anymore. 'Cause
We
we were
drove
there.
past where it used to been.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 It's
Absolutely.
not there anymore. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I needed to get out. Now everybody who's messaged me, that's your questions are answered. I'm not
Yep.
gonna answer
I'll
anymore.
I'll get this put together at some point today, and we'll get it out there so you can just send people links
Yeah.
instead of
Just
having to
just
reply.
listen to the podcast.
Hmm.
And I don't
Yes.
have a gray man moment. I didn't plan for one today. I'll plan for one for our next podcast.
So what's a gray man moment? I would so going back to AI and what can we trust? I think we're all in the same place. We're all unsure of what we can trust and what we can't trust.
Mm,
So what can we do? Like legitimately, we need to be checking our resources, checking
you do.
citations. If you see a video that looks like it is shit and you skip it, but then it comes up again, dig in. Like what is really going on? And I just the reporter that got shot in the leg, I dug in enough to realize, oh, that is real. And then I kind of stopped because it's a blip, right? That's just another
Yeah.
flag. But if there's something, you talk about reading the Constitution, the amendments, the titles, the articles, read it all, man. Like if you want to know what's true. And even after doing that, when I read, we talked about this earlier, what is due process? Due process is defined in the Fifth Amendment, right?
Yeah.
So that may be true, but the words may mean something different to me than to you. So then
So
we need to
the
have a
other,
conversation
well,
to,
you also need to then go back and understand 18th century colonial
right,
English. What the words, what exactly were, because when I got my master's in history, that's a big part of that. When you're
right,
looking at
right.
older documents, you have to go back, like the Second Amendment, when it says a well-trained militia. Well, it's not talking about the National Guard. You have to understand what they were talking about with those
Mhm.
words at that time. What exactly were they applying them to? You can't, it's like applying 21st century morality to a 16th or 15th century individual.
Right.
You
So
cannot do that.
and what the words meant then, so that makes sense.
Yep.
And then if we're going to do this right, and I would challenge, I guess this is where
Yeah.
the challenge is follow the chain of legal actions that have
Mhm.
happened since then. That's why we have uh,
Yes.
three parts to our federal government, because it's a law, it's our constitution, that's legal, but it's challenged over the years. And where are we now? Because the word said this, and we've had to challenge it over the years, and this is where we've landed now.
Well, that's the first three articles of the Constitution. They talk about first is Congress, second is executive, the third is the Supreme Court. They
Right.
talk the judiciary. They actually outline what they can and cannot do in those first three articles.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it, anyway, yeah, most Americans who tout, this violates my constitutional rights, or this is covered under the Constitution, have never read the Constitution, which drives me crazy.
Yeah,
So I would
because
say
we hear
gray man
somebody else
moment.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My gray man moment would be discernment. You have to learn the art of discernment. And it's very, very important to learn that, especially so that you can learn to read people, learn to read situations, understand the information that you're getting in, and discern what is valid and what is not. And so you don't get analysis paralysis in a complex situation. It's one of the things when I went through training that it was a big part of the investigations course that I
Yeah.
went through for counterintelligence was that discernment.
Mhm.
And because it works both with people and information and situations, and work on your discernment and try to and really, really try to detach your discernment from emotion,
Yes. Good Lord. Yes.
because that is something that is sorely lacking right now
Hmm.
in most of the things going on in the US and most of the stuff I read in social media. There is a lack of being able to disconnect emotion from discernment.
And I,
You are welcome to your emotions and you should
Mhm.
have them as an individual, but discerning something needs to be void of the majority of your emotions so that you can really then parse it and then decide what it is, and then you can act on it. And an action does have emotion attached to it, but then you can attach that and act on it.
Right. Yeah, instead of going into it with the
Yeah.
emotion. And
Yep.
it's I think
100%.
it's important to say too, from the perspective of the show that we've developed over the years, I don't hear from you, and I know you well enough that I can speak on your behalf on this. We're not asking our listeners and viewers to discern to agree with us. We're
No.
asking to discern so that
Yeah.
you can speak with confidence. And then
Yep.
and then, after all of these episodes, after all of these years, the challenge is still out there. Get to that point, and if it's differing from what you're hearing here, come talk to us.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's not a challenge as in you are idiot and you are dumb and you should come so we could make fun. No, I don't want to make fun
Let's
of
have a
anybody.
conversation.
I want to have debate. And
Yeah.
one of the unfortunate things about our show is that we agree on too many things. So we don't, and I mean, I like that because we don't come across as, sports talk radio or any of the other talking heads out there that are just yelling and screaming. I really would. I'd love to have somebody come on to point out the holes in, the
Yeah.
discussion points that we make. This is why it's not legal, and this is why it should be uh, uh, taken up into court. Let's have that conversation. Go through those steps, and let's do that. So yeah, that challenge is still out there.
Word. I'm with
Yeah.
you.
All right. I don't have to. I'm the same with you. Oh, you know what? No, I do have one for you.
Oh
We're
man.
gonna
All right.
wrap up with a shitty choice. This one, uh, maybe more relevant than I'd like it to be. But so you've got to make a decision about this, and then we'll see what direction we go with it. You have 30 minutes to gather what's important, and then you have to leave. You know you're not coming back. So think about that. You've got 30 minutes to get your stuff together. What's the third thing that you take? Yeah, right.
Word family albums.
Family, I like the photo albums.
Yep.
Well, that's a good one.
That's the third one.
That's a third one. Every third page in the photo album is a picture of your mom naked.
Oh God.
And so you've got that and
For the
various
rest of my life.
poses. Yeah, various poses, of course.
Oh God. Ugh. Ugh.
Think
Still need to have breakfast, man. Don't do that to me.
think 1980s penthouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
stop it. No.
So
No.
much bush.
Wooka, 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 bam, wooka, wooka. No, thank you. But I guess I'm gonna have to live with it now.
Yep, yep. And it's the third page, so I mean every
That's
third
a
page.
lot. That's a lot of pages.
Yeah, well, and 'cause I mean, you got a lot to get through the pictures. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Some bitch.
Yeah. If anybody's got an idea of a shitty choice, let me know. That's the end of that's the end of my first list. There's some pretty fun games that we could do in this segment too. There's some new stuff that's come out. Can't think of one right now. Did you know that wombats have cubed poop?
What?
Yeah. I do a few different shows. I don't know if we've talked about that here. I do different I do a podcast with my church. I've got another friend that we do a podcast about life and things. Her name's Beth, and she's been through apparently I just gather people that have health issues in my life.
You do.
Beth went through brain cancer, and it's the kind that comes back and will kill her eventually. And we're doing a podcast about her life journey also. But with my pastor, I don't know. We got talking about platypus, um, and and then wombat is my other, like, it's an animal that sticks in my head always. The wombat poops cubes. And it sounds like a joke, right? But it's not. You
Yeah.
can look it up and dig deeper than just the AI. It's true. Their butt muscles are formed in a way that they make cubes, and then they stack their cubes up to identify their area. Like they put boundaries out with their poops.
That is crazy. Yeah,
And
square
then-
poop, a
Yep.
square poop fence.
The only animal that we're aware of that, I mean, I've had some that felt like they were coming out with sharp corners, but and then the platypus. It was funny because the pastor friend of mine I do the show with, he was talking about the platypus, and he was making it out like God just took like whatever was left over from animals. We've got the bill, we've got the webbed feet. You're gonna lay eggs, but you're a mammal. And in that bucket, did you know? I got to add this in. Did you know that God ran out of nipples? That platypus does not have nipples. They excrete milk from their skin, and the pups lick it off their skin.
What? That's the most.
Swear to God.
Oh my God! It just gets worse.
The platypus is just a,
Should not be here.
yep, it's a weird, it's as alien as the octopus.
That's, you know what? That's where they come from. They're
Probably.
actually they devolved. They didn't evolve. They came from the species and they devolved over time
Yes, exactly. Yep.
because they are aliens.
Yeah. Their mothership is going to show up and say, "What happened? What are you, where did your nipples go?"
Why are you leaking from your fur? Why do you have fur?
Yeah. Is that an egg?
Are you making your own breakfast? What is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, that is convenient.
It would be,
Egg.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd eat something that came out of my body.
I'm not sure I'd eat my own eggs.
So, well, there is no better way to end this show than with that statement. I'm not going to eat my own eggs. That might be the title. We'll have to see. Have your eggs and eat them too. All right. Well, stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel, and we'll be back if the world burns on June 14th. Good luck, and we'll see you on the other side. If not, we'll be back for another show to talk about all things world events, personal defense, and other shitty things. How about that?
Sounds good.
Find us on Facebook, YouTube, and your podcast app at The Gray Man Podcast. All rights reserved. Skunk and Gator Creations.